Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Front Page for the fall 2019 semester here at Keegan Community College, a show that is broadcast on Spectrum, Verizon Fios, the Auburn Regional Media Access, better known as ARMA, as well as WDWN, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. The landscape of Keegan County is starting to get littered with political signs, but there is a more important campaign going on this year, and it's what we're going to be talking about for the next half hour. That is this fall's United Way campaign, which kicked off its 2019 campaign in the last several weeks. In the past, they have asked people to be chairs, and two that they were lucky enough to have in 2009 were GINO and MACIER ALBERICI, who have come back as co-chairs this year for this year's campaign, but with a little twist. Where they just did it 10 years ago, just the two of them, they have brought their family in as a whole group leading the 2019 campaign. In the studio with us are GINO ALBERICI, whose wife Maxine is preparing for tonight's Community Preservation Committee's annual Chef's Night at Sacred Heart, so she got a free pass for tonight. Their son Jeff, who is a history teacher in the Auburn Large School District right next door, and they're being joined by Keegan County's United Way Executive Director Karen MACIER, all here to talk about the campaign. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All of you, you've all been here in different capacities over time. So what is your goal for 2019?
$875,000.
Is that, is the goal up or down from last year?
It's a little down from last year.
And what did you make last year?
We made $815,000 last year.
So still going along. When did you start the campaign?
We kicked it off September 17th.
I know he was making calls in the summer.
Absolutely.
He was cold calling
Yes.
people during the summer, but it started...
officially launched in September 17th.
And then when does it end?
It'll end by the end of February.
Okay, so that's kind of a change from in the past where everyone said there was a hard and fast, and I know part of that was because you had a match from a foundation that always wanted by whatever, let's say November 30th. They wanted that number.
Correct.
Is it odd to go into a new calendar year?
No, actually, since I've been here, we have been going into the calendar year. Okay. And two things have happened that makes that so. The majority of the campaign really does happen now and by the end of the year. But because of a couple of other things, and that we have some companies whose headquarters are no longer here in town or they're serviced by another United Way, we don't receive those funds until after the first of the year.
Okay.
So that's the big reason why. But the majority of funds are come in through the workplaces where we're actively engaged right now.
Yeah, and is that where the most of your donations are from the workplace?
Two major areas, yes, certainly the workplace, and then followed by community donations.
So back to the employee donations, is a percentage, do you have an idea of how many, as a percentage of your donors, how many do employee check off where they just have it taken out of their paycheck in a given?
Right. So again, within the workplaces that we're at, I would tell you that the majority of people who give at the workplace, most of that is through workplace giving.
Okay. So while they'll think the campaign's fun, the funner part sometimes is giving out the money. So where does the money go?
Oh, certainly. You know, we have a whole committee. I like to remind people I don't get to make any funding decisions, so don't ask. I can't give it to you. But we have a very onerous, according to some people, selection process. So towards the end of the year, we'll open it up for grant selection. People have an opportunity, nonprofits, 501c3s in our community get to apply in one of our four major areas of health, education, financial stability, or safety net.
So traditionally, for years, if
Yes.
not decades, the number that I was always given was somewhere between 20 and 25 agencies. Is it still that the bulk, or do you allow every year new to apply and some drop out?
You know, it's open. If people want to apply, we certainly encourage that. We want to work with you and everything. We stay about that number because it's based around the need of the community. And we do, you know, over the last couple of years, we've had a couple new ones come on, and we've also lost a couple.
So right now, this year, how many member agencies do you have?
21.
And that is divided up by a committee, and how do they go through their process?
Certainly, all the applications will come in, and then they will review those applications and all the financials, and then they actually meet with all of the organizations to review what's in the application, to ask questions, and depending on the cycle that we're in, they often will visit the programs.
And what is the United Way has some overhead expenses. What is your percentage that you use for administrative?
Yeah, we really want to try to stay around at the 20% range. Honestly, we're a little higher this year than we wanted to be because we had to move.
So we should say that. So you have moved,
Yes.
and you know what? That is the wrong address on your, because I had you at 17. You are at 2 State Street
We're at
now.
2 State Street now, right?
That is, I should know of all people.
Right, yeah.
Moved in the office.
Yeah, yeah.
The phone number and the website are still the
all
same.
remain the same,
But
right?
it's 2 State Street, and we'll remind people
Okay,
about that.
yeah, but our physical address moved. So you'll see, we had some expenses, for instance, going back to the administrative that were a little higher because of the move and different things. We had a couple extra months of rent where we were paying on a couple places, a new phone system, and things that are going to happen when you have to move.
Do you have any idea how many people you impact in Cuyahoga County?
Oh, certainly, and I'd let GINO talk to
Sure.
that, because I think that's really one of his favorite things to talk about.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you. Basically, first of all, the idea of the intergenerational concept is tremendous, I think. I don't know that it's ever been done. It's Team ALBERICI, and it has been generational. We've had grandkids, our kids, and obviously Maxine and myself have all been, involved with different things that have occurred since the kickoff.
So you did this before. Why do it again? It's not like you haven't been asked that question, though, in the last month. Why do it again? So for the record, you had a really successful campaign in 2009.
Yes, we did.
You
Yes.
passed your numbers, if I remember correctly.
Surpassed it, yes.
You involved whole new communities, especially Port Barn, and teachers in the
Right,
campaign.
right.
Kind of remember those things. Why not just say, hey, we did it, we checked it off, and we did really, really well?
A little background. Former Sheriff Dave Gould calls me when I'm down in Florida, and he said, gee, he says, would like to have you and your Maxine and your family get involved in doing the 219, 220 campaign. I said, well, I can't speak for my kids. Let me check with them, and I'll get back to you. And they all bought into it. And incidentally, it's a great concept. Karen and the crew, did a great job. So anyway, we said yes. And
So you said yes. So I know you a long time. So no. Your time has expired, sir, for a second.
Okay.
So let me tell you how the
You're number
conversation
fi-
went.
Yeah, so you're number 5 of 6.
I
correct?
am.
Okay. So tell us how the conversation really went.
So I'm sitting on the couch watching TV on a nice March night, and I'm like, this is great. My dad calls, not unusual, checking in, how are things going? And he's like, hey, this is what we'd like to do. I said, Dad, whatever you want to do. And, from there, I think it was about 3 minutes later, I got a call back. Jeff, you're in? We just decided yes. Now, you know how it is, and you have.
I do.
You
And
have
so
a dad that's
we were
the
talking
same,
beforehand. I've known
you
this
know.
gentleman for a very long time, and I know how his group of friends all work. So that's why I'm asking how it went in their household.
Listen, I've been lucky, and I tell people all the time, I've been blessed to be in such a great community, but to have such a great family. And that's where it really comes down to. And the one thing that I think I've learned over time is just how much giving back to your community comes back to you in really positive ways. And I think that that's where this came from. So, I joke around. Look, even at 48 or 49 years old, I don't even remember my age, but even at 49 years old, you still want to make your parents happy, and ultimately.
And if the community benefits, all the better.
Exactly, yeah. And it's great because, I will tell you, I still get my regular calls like, hey, have you taken care of this? You need to do this, or, So I'm getting those updates. You know, it's not usually from Karen. When Karen calls, I'm happy. It's from my
Oh, by
dad.
the way,
right?
he might call you to tell you what you're doing, but the enforcer calls.
Yes, that's
She's not in the studio right now.
And that's why I'm going to cook after.
So just on this, so there are not all of your brothers. I know you have a sister, but not everybody is here. So I've seen some great family photos, which are always terrific. How many family members are working on the campaign?
Really, everybody is.
Yeah.
My brother Jason called the other day, and he's working with me to actually, if the school district, he kind of made a challenge with us, if we could come up, the Auburn school districts with $12,000, he's trying to get his company to chip in $1,000. You know, I mean, so everybody is there, and I know he's been on the phone with his friends saying, look, this is important to my parents, and this is important for our community that we grew up in. Can you please send in a check? Can you please help out? So you know how it is. I mean, you're in a family, and that family stuff. Once those things happen and come along, you rally behind the troops.
So you've got, when we talk intergenerational, you're talking people from, we'll just say spry late 70s to
105.
so teens.
Yeah, well, even you know, even the younger kids are getting into.
Okay.
It was nice. The one thing with being so invested in the community and so many different things, you know, I had 7 boys from the lacrosse team that I coached. I called up, and my brother John runs the mud run, and they came up and they were able to raise almost $1,000 in just parking fees and donations. And they had a ball doing it. I mean, they were having a lot of fun. It was a beautiful day. And it was
So
just.
you're kind of really doing some different things
Yes.
here.
My granddaughter, Jillian, had a can drive one Sunday. Now, she presented United Way with a check for $458. There's a lot of nickels there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but let me
Please.
go back to, if I may, a couple things. One of the things that really piqued my interest, we don't want to get into a ton of figures here, but one of the things that really piqued my interest was that 40,400 people, now in many cases duplicate, but depend on some agency that's supported by United Way.
So that's about
that
half the
really,
population.
yeah, that's right.
So it could be anybody who's using the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, Save Our, Chad, community
Yes.
counseling. I'm going to leave people out. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay.
YMCA,
Exactly.
Salvation Army. So whether
Exactly.
it's food security to athletics to building strong children, that runs the whole gambit there.
And you know, even like my daughter received books. I think they must have been 10, 12 years ago that they started up the Imaginary Library.
Dolly
and
Parton.
So you're still doing Imagination
Yes, we are.
Library?
Imagination
Any
Library.
idea how many books you've given out at this point?
No, I don't have a clue.
I know it was well past 150,000 last time we had them on.
10 years for the program.
10 years, okay. So you've done some events already. You mentioned the can drive. I know over the weekend you had a musical event. You fortunately had good weather,
Yeah.
a little sticky, but still good
Yeah, it was
weather.
Great
What
day.
type of events have you been doing?
So the one that you're referring to at Tinker's, Mort was great about working. My brother Jim and Christy, especially Christy, is very much into the music scene, and you know, she was able to talk to some local bands who were willing to donate their time. This Cruise Control, which is they're phenomenal. I can't say that I go to a lot of local band stuff, but they were great.
Oh, I see you as a group. As
yeah.
a groupie, I
Yeah.
do.
And do you really?
I do.
And then it was a
Weekend.
Weekend at
At Bernie's,
Bernie's. Weekend at Bernie's, who was tremendous. I mean, these are just local musicians who came and gave their time, and you know, and played for a couple hours, and so it was nice. It really was a beautiful day, and we got lucky, and I think they were able to raise a few $1,000s more.
but-
So everything chips away at that number, and I
Yes.
think that that's the big.
So I know it's early because it's tough to do comparison apple to apples, apples to oranges. At this particular stage, we're about, I know you have the thermometer, and I passed by it, I think, this afternoon in
Yep.
front of the county office building. Where are you as a percentage?
About 28 to 30%. We're running ahead right now.
You are, okay.
Yeah, and these kinds of events and things have helped boost that number right now.
And so I know you've been working the phones.
Yes, I have.
So your theory was to get out there early
Yes,
and raise money.
right. And one of the things, my thrust has been calling these people who no longer live in Auburn, and some that do, but my thrust has been, you know, your roots are here, you received a great beginning, you know, I'd really appreciate if you...
Well, we still are the center of the universe.
We are.
So you have there are a couple, you're not a programmatic
Correct.
United Way, but you do have some things that you support programmatically. So one of the well-known items is a cash, which is where you help people prepare their tax forms. What is cash? It's CA$H. What is cash?
Cash is a program that we do, and actually it's a great partnership because the college has been our partner with that. We host it here at the college, and we provide free income tax services for low to moderate income people. And we have trained by the IRS and certified by the IRS tax preparers to do that. And they do a couple of things in trying to make sure that we're identifying for people all the tax credits that they're eligible for, as well as doing those returns for free.
And when do you operate that?
That'll start probably in late January and run up to early April.
Any idea how much you're saved by that tax credit by Cuyahoga County residents?
Yeah, you know, I would have to look that up, to be honest. We do get a report for those that tell us. But I do know that last year the program, along with My Free Taxes, which is another program that you can just do by yourself, brought back, you know, close to $500,000 of tax returns back into the community. Plus, then if you take and just multiply the average of a tax return of being $200 per simple tax return, that's a lot of savings for those people.
You are also, and you've been on before to talk about this, is just real quickly 211. What is that?
211 is something, 211 is a information and referral service, 24/7, 365 days a year. If you need information about something, you know, if you're in an emergency, 911 works. 211 works if you're looking for information, need help with something, don't know where to call 211. You can also use text, and it's also a website. And it's underutilized in Cuyahoga County. We're really trying to promote it more. It's a wonderful resource. We have lots of Cuyahoga County resources and beyond. So we really encourage people to use it. And if they certainly have an issue, if it doesn't work right for them or they have any question, call our office, and we work very closely with our friends at 211.
And does part of what you raise in United Way money, Cuyahoga County, go to fund that?
Not directly from the money that we do through the dollars that we raise here, but some of our funding through our dues and some of the other things to United Way New York State.
Okay.
So in one way or another, it is somewhat connected.
And you also, and I saw an email on it, I think, earlier today, you run a not-for-profit summit.
Not-for-profit summit, yep, this will be our third one coming up. Again, we're partnering with the college and going to do it here this year.
And when is it?
That is on Friday, October 18th. Information is on our website. It's primarily aimed at those involved in the not-for-profit world. So if you're working in one, if you're a volunteer, if you want to know more, if you're a board member, we welcome you. We have a really great program this year.
And how much does it cost to attend?
$50.
And you can go on your website to register for it?
The chamber website
Chamber,
or
okay.
our website. Both will get you there.
And is there a specific theme for this year?
We're looking at sustainability in some ways. We've got the CEO of the, oh my gosh, I can never remember, Doug Sauer of the nonprofits. He's really very well known in his field.
Nonprofit network, okay.
He's very good. We've got a panel discussion on converting volunteers into donors. We're looking at things that self-care, you know, those in the human service field. This can be a tough field, and want to pay attention to that. Lessons learned. We have a really great panel from those people in different places in their career field. What are the kinds of things you need to know if you're looking or thinking about a career in nonprofit management, and how do you get ahead in the field? Because often there's not a lot of places to progress, if you will, within the organization that you're working.
So I want to get back to your campaign. Obviously, you have multiple generations involved in the United Way campaign. How big a challenge is it, not necessarily just for Cuyahoga County, but for United Way as a whole, to get younger generations to donate?
It has been a challenge, and it was really something that we were very aware of when we were sitting around talking about how do we continue to have an energetic campaign and grow the idea, this culture of philanthropy, if you will, within our community, because it's very strong. But we want to make sure, what are the kinds of ways that we can ensure that we're continuing to do that? And that was one of the reasons that we thought about a family focus, because it brings different ways, it brings different, if you will, viewpoints and connections.
So I know that a lot, if you watch any type of fundraising on a national level with, text this number and you'll be able to give. Have you gotten to that level locally? There's an infrastructure that goes in with that.
Right, and we do not have the infrastructure at this point for texting.
But you are in, I know, elementary schools, because I got a flyer, where you're raising coins. I think that's over right
Yes.
now.
Yeah, the local, in the city schools, it's over. It's just getting started in some of our county schools.
And you're asking that children give their spare change in
Yep.
there, and those that goes to the campaign as well. So, how many children do you have?
I have 3 children,
Ages?
22, 20, and 13.
So 20 and 22 are where, the boys?
Anthony is up at West Point. He's a junior.
Okay.
Nicholas is currently out in the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
But he is at the Merchant Marine Academy.
I was going to say
So-
surfing.
Yeah, they do a semester at sea. They do a semester at sea. Actually, 3 semesters. So this is his final semester at sea.
So, what is your hope? And I know the 2 older ones may not be as active in this, though, if they come
Yeah,
home.
it's actually funny because for Tinkers, they are all social media, and he's 22, so all his friends can go to Tinkers.
Okay.
So he shot out some, texts and everything, and he actually texts me back, and I think it's Instagram actually, right? I mean, shout out his
Asking the
Instagram
wrong guy.
messages. That's right, me too. But he shout out his messages, and he goes, "Oh, all my boys are at the football game." He goes, "But they'll help you next time." So being of age, if you do something like that, he's in the spot where
So
his
what do
friends
you
could
want
come.
your daughter and your nieces and nephews, because you have got,
Yeah.
with 6 of you, there's a couple of other kids involved.
So
what
we-
do you want them to get out of this?
I think there's a huge amount to be learned through an example of others and seeing what others are doing, and then also participating in that. So, simple thing. We did a little commercial. They have a nice little green room over at the middle school that they put in when they upgraded the technology room a couple years ago. And so now they're doing live morning announcements. So
Okay.
we went in the day before. This Matt Drasta, who you know Matt.
I do.
Really sharp technology teacher. But Matt put together a little video for us of us asking, and explaining to kids what this went to. And then my daughter and her girlfriend sang a little jingle about, bringing your coins in. And so, that's one way to be involved and just to see. But I think the modeling is really important, and just seeing, look, I can't sit here and say I was the most generous person, but when you have 2 parents that are so giving, it's hard when your mother calls and says, "Hey, will you cook tonight?"
Right.
To say, "No, you're not going to cook at that," or "Will you give blood?" or "Will you do this?" And the things that they're involved in, and it almost naturally makes you involved in those things. So it is exciting, and my Uncle B always said, it's much better to give than to receive. And it's really funny. At 18, I was like, keep giving. I'm okay with it.
I'm here.
But as you get older, you do see that. You see the joy under the Christmas tree. You see the joy in the things that are meaningful to others, and giving that of yourself. And really, one of the biggest things is probably time. When you give of time and help in organizing some of these events, and are out there and the volunteers, 180 in all, which is really amazing to me that so many people step up for this organization. I think it just speaks to how good of an organization it is.
So you have 180 volunteers. Where do they come from?
I don't know, some days. They really, so many of them come from so many different places. We have so many in our workplaces. So for instance, we were talking about the workplace campaigns earlier. We go in, we do a 15-minute campaign, but there's a workplace coordinator there who's running that campaign. So you have, 65 to 75 people in the workplaces that are doing that. We have our board members. We have the people who sign up for committees. We have people that do events. We have, and people who just care about the community that want to come, that, will come and call us. Do you have some volunteer opportunities? Can we come and help you out? And these 180, these are people that are not just one.
So it's not just the Alberici family.
It's
it
not
seems
just
like
the,
there's
it seems
180
like
of
that,
you.
there's only
But-
30 some
Not
of
yet.
them,
Okay.
but we just have such a giving, caring community that people step up to do things, and it really makes our job so much easier.
And you have a very small staff.
Three.
Okay, three. Okay.
Three.
So I want to talk a little bit about giving, and I want to cover one or two things. We only have about 2 minutes left. How can somebody make a gift besides mailing it to the right address, which is 2 State
2
Street?
State Street, certainly. They
so-
can certainly go right to our website, unitedwayofcuyacounty.org.
So you can make a secure credit
You
card.
can make a secure credit card right online.
You'll take checks and cash.
We'll take checks and cash, you can mail them, and even if you want to make a credit card over the phone, you can call our office at 315-253-9371.
So are you doing, I know there used to be a competition between chairs about who can do the most site visits. Are you doing presentations at sites?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Maxine and I, we've already, 4 or 5 already.
And I know you
Yeah.
just did 4 schools this
Yeah,
afternoon.
we did 3 this afternoon. We
Yeah.
cut back one for this. We were supposed to do 4.
Okay, I appreciate that. So still, employee giving is still an important part
Very.
here. Yeah, I know you mentioned some thematic items that you work with, 211, you deal with the cash program. You're also involved in this ALICE, which is Access Limited Income Constraint
Employed.
Employed. What is that?
Yeah, really, that's an initiative that started with United Way of New York State, of which we're a member. There's probably 20 United Ways across the state that are bringing this on. This is really a research study of bringing awareness to a population that's really important to us. So these are the people who are working, doing all the right things, but still are unable to make ends meet come the end of the month.
And they're part of that 40,000 that might receive some form of
Absolutely.
United
Yes.
Way.
Absolutely.
So this is a data collection versus programmatic.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we're doing a lot of trying to raise awareness and start a conversation about ALICE and what can we do as a United Way and what can we do as a community.
Poverty-wise, I know you see it with kids who come into the schools. You're a middle school teacher right next door at the junior high. How big an issue is poverty in Cuyahoga County?
It's a real big issue. Our poverty numbers in Cuyahoga County stay somewhere between 13 and 15%, which is, it's not great. And then you add another 28% of what we call the ALICE population. So that a lot of people
ALICE
are
population
struggling.
being that it's tight.
Yeah.
They may be
They're tight.
underemployed. They
They're-
may not.
right,
They may
they're
have multiple
working.
jobs.
Right, they're working, they're doing the right things, but when you look at the base kinds of things as transportation, childcare, healthcare, these are the things that they're struggling with.
And what is the media? Do you have an idea of what's the poverty threshold for? Does it go by family, by individual, or does it break down for all of those?
The poverty level is something that's set by the federal government.
Okay, so that number where you were talking about 10 to 12, that's that number plus then you add in the ALICE
Then you
number.
add the ALICE numbers, right?
Okay. I'd like to turn it over just as we close out to have you make your pitch. Don't tell me, tell them in that red light. Why should somebody give to the United Way? And then I'll turn it over to your son.
One of the things I once heard was that, in life, it's the small things that matter more often than the big things. And the giving, $1, $2 a week, small thing, but it really amounts to a great deal and does a great deal to aid United Way and the agencies that we fund. So that basically is my
That's all right. That's what we
thoughts.
want to hear.
Yeah.
So I turn it over to you for the last word,
Yeah.
only because I know that we see a spike. We see younger givers who want to give a lot, but they just don't have enough when they're in their teens, 20s, and 30s. It kind of drops off, and then it comes back up when you get in your 60s and 70s and 80s giving. What's the pitch to people of your age?
Well, I really think, lucky enough, and I think you probably feel the same way, to be in such a great community that we're in. And I think that instead of just seeing it as giving, seeing it as an investment. And like any investment, initially you may not see all the changes, but over time it grows. And what's made this community great is the investments that people have made, from Seymour Library to the Case family to the Willards. You go all the way down through to the Bisgroves. We can name off families who've invested, and you just sit back and you watch it grow and how much better it is. And I think that that's what we're asking for is for you to make an investment in our community's future, an investment for all of us, because it makes all of us better and it makes all of us stronger. And that's really what I think the United Way is all about. It truly is united.
Well, we want to thank the Albericis not only for being here, but also for your family's commitment to this community, and we're lucky for that. Our guests have been GINO and Jeff Alberici, who've been part of Team Alberici, carrying on the United Way tradition, as well as Karen Macier, the Executive Director of the United Way. You can send your cash or go online at the website that we have on the bottom of the screen, or you can send your checks to 2 State Street for the United Way, or call the agency to get more information about the United Way. We're going to take a couple of weeks off from Beyond the Front Page and Inside Government after tonight. Next Tuesday, we start a series of forums for offices in Cuyahoga County. They include the Cuyahoga County Legislature, the Auburn City Council, and the race for mayor. On October 8th, we'll have a race for the Cuyahoga County Legislature between District 8. It's Joseph DeForest, who is an incumbent, in a rematch against Hans Petcher, a Republican. That'll be followed on Thursday with a race between Republican Ed Darrow and Democrat Heidi Nightingale for an open seat that is being created in the 10th District, which is located in the northwest section of the city of Auburn, by legislator Joseph Bennett, who is not seeking re-election this year. I will moderate the forums that are co-sponsored by The Citizen, with questions being asked by Executive Editor Jeremy Boyer of The Citizen. We would love to have your questions and ideas for future guests on both Inside Government and Beyond the Front Page when we return on November 5th. You can send those questions to us by email at cozguytho@aol.com, or to Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page at 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York, 13021. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cuyahoga Community College. We want to thank you for watching. Hope you have a great night, terrific tomorrow, and we'll see you back in the studio next week for the first of our forums.